Hey everybody, welcome to the Comedy Cellar Nightly live on YouTube. Great to have you here. My name is Ray Ellen. I'll be your host this evening, and we have a terrific group of comics hanging out and chatting and joking and chatting. You've seen this man on so many TV shows. The Tonight Show, Conan O'Brien. He was in the movie The Aristocrats. He gets annoyed when I mention it, but he was on The Nanny for many episodes. Gregg Rogell, everybody. Hello, Greg. Good to see you, bud.
Hey, buddy.
We also have a fellow who's made, I believe, 11 appearances. 11 appearances on the David Letterman show. Nick Griffin. Nick,
Yay! Thank you. Good to be here.
good to see you, man. And rounding out tonight's show, we have a fellow. He's been on the Letterman show. He's on the Craig Ferguson show. He was in the hit Ben Stiller movie, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And he's the voice of the yellow M&M, Brian Scott McFadden.
I was the voice of the yellow M&M, Ray.
How long
More?
were you the voice for? How long, Brian?
What's that?
How long were you the voice of the
I was
yellow
the M&M. I was the yellow M&M for 2 years, and they were the most lucrative 2 years of my life. Can I just say that it was the
God
most?
bless you.
What did he sound like? How did he talk?
I love when Ray hands me lobs these softball grapefruits to the plate to set me up for these bits. You know, hey, what did that? I just off the top of my head, what did he sound like? Perhaps maybe you could give us a rendition.
Do your sounds.
I'll play the show business game, Ray. I will. I will play the show business. Let's pretend we're having a conversation and get to the bit.
It's a conversation. You don't have to do a bit. Just do the voice. Just say, "Hey, Ray, nice to see you," in the voice.
No, Ray, I love you like a brother, and for you, I will do all of the repertoire of voices that you oftentimes encourage me to do. And the yellow M&M sounded like covered in a thin candy shell. All right.
Right. Now, what's amazing is that voice sounds oddly similar to the Honey Nut Cheerios bee.
Yes, but the Honey Nut Cheerio bee, if you know anything about cartoon voices, the Honey Nut Cheerio bee had a bit of a buzz in it, Ray. I will.
But you did that voice as well, just to
Yeah,
be clear.
it's got a bigger taste and a better crunch. That was
go.
that. It was a little more, even more for your big mouth to munch.
That was the Honey Nut Cheerio bee.
And how long was the session when you had to do a recording session for either of those? Typically, what's an average session? An hour?
SAG hour and a half. Is a standard session.
Yeah.
Yes, you get paid.
The man bought a home on the Upper West Side of New York City.
Yes.
Talking like an animated bee.
Basically, I have my booth. I have my VO booth right here that I had to, build out because we were all under house arrest. As my brothers in arms look like they're all like sitting there under surveillance camera footage in the background. Nick and Greg. And yes, that's my. I feel like I'm at the Strand bookstore and I have my own little booth right there. So that's my VO booth right there. So if anybody needs anything, you need any announcements or any tags for your radio or television commercials, or Nick, you want me to announce you going to the bathroom, or Greg, you need something for one of your lucrative. Greg's got a lot of hands in various projects, I know. So anything you need, I'm there for you. I'm your voice guy. Let me in. Hire me.
Have you done any gigs, any voice gigs right now during this lockdown?
Yeah, I just did I can't remember what the hell was. Progressive radio, progressive commercial for progressive something or other.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm serious. It's amazing. You're making a fucking living in the middle of a pandemic. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I did the voice of a pigeon for something as well. I don't even remember something. I'm very big on animals, talking animals. If it wasn't for talking animals, I would not have a career. from the Sirtis sheep, I made a list of every animal I've done. I did a flying pig, a cow, a dog, a lemur. I did a lemur, a kangaroo, a cockroach, a fly, everything. I've just done every freaking.
And you do a wonderful Ray Romano, don't you?
Yes, me and Greg do dueling Romanos. Like, yeah. What do you think? Wait a second there. Whatever. Yeah. No.
Spelling.
Yeah, I do Ray, and then I lower Ray, and then I'm Brian. Now I'm
yeah, exactly.
No, but it's interesting. I mean, because Brian, obviously, because you've done stand up and acting, and you've done a lot of everything and voiceovers. And Greg, you've done. I mean, besides, I know you've done more stand up than acting, But I really, I mean, when I mentioned that you've been on The Nanny, because I think it's so cool. I mean, that's a big deal. And when you got that, that must have been a huge, exciting moment for you when you got that news.
Yeah, I didn't audition for it. I did the Tonight Show, and then Fran Drescher saw me on the show, and she asked if I would be the warm-up act for The Nanny, which was out in L.A., but I was in New York, and I just got a deal with NBC. Her show was on CBS, so I couldn't do it. So then her and her husband actually wrote an episode with me in it, and asked if I can do that. I wanted to do that, and also warm up the show. So they flew me out there. I did the warm up and I did the episode, and then they wrote another episode with me in it, doing a little stand up. They took a little piece of my act, so I did that again, and then I wasn't allowed to do any more because the show was on CBS, and at the time I had a deal for a show on NBC, which never went anywhere. But they had I was only allowed to do 2 episodes. I was a kid. I was just starting out, so for me it was.
I love these show business stories where you know what I mean. Like I did 2 episodes of The Nanny, and then I had a deal that I couldn't. It was exclusively, you know what I mean, like Springsteen. I couldn't record another album for 3 years. We were in litigation. I couldn't act. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Did you do any other more warm up? Because I had to warm up not Ferguson but Kilborn audience like 5 times, and it was so hard and so not fun.
Yeah, the Nanny one, there was also a band, so I would just play back and forth to the band, and so it was fun. I had a good time, but that's the only warm up for any TV shows that I've ever had.
That's a specific art form. Like Ray, you would rock that. Ray, you are the only person who could. I've seen you in situations where every comedian would have, folded up their tents and swallowed a bullet, and you just waltz away, where they come. What was that thing in Aruba where they said, we did like an hour or something, an hour and a half of 4 comedians, and Ray was like, okay, that's your show, and the like, I don't know, the thug guy who hired.
I walked off stage. I walked off stage. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
And the guy said, what are you fucking talking about? We hired you for the entire evening. Get the fuck back on that stage or whatever. And Ray just went, all right, and did another like 3 hours. The rest of us just left. You know what I mean? We were like, all right, but Ray just went on like, oh, okay, I'll do another hour and a half of crowd work. And I was like, my jaw hit the floor, and I go, okay, that's a professional and a gift that I do not necessarily have. You know what I mean?
the part, thank you, Brian. But the part about that I got the biggest kick out of was like, so I kept going and going, and like at the 40 more minute mark, I saw the door open and like Brian sticks his head in. And then like 20 minutes later, I'm still going, and like Chuck Nice sticks his head in. And they just kept looking in and walking out.
Yeah, we wanted to go to the taco truck, and you were our ride. That's why. We were like, how much more time is Ray going to do? Because you were driving us around the whole island,
Well, it's interesting, though, because it is...
That taco truck is fucking stellar.
They're great.
The best.
They're great.
The best.
But it's Nick, when you say you did warm up, I'm surprised to hear you say it, because you're obviously, everyone respects you as a comic. You're a great comic. You have 1 million credits, but your type of act, I wouldn't see it for warm up.
I couldn't agree more, and I was shocked. But what happened is that my manager managed the guy who normally did it.
Okay.
And they figured, well, one of his clients can do it. Let's see if another. I don't want to look any further.
That's so funny.
They let me do it 2 or 3 times, and it was over. I was just bad. I couldn't do it.
That's so funny, because it's like whatchamacallit. One of my favorite stories is Gilbert Gottfried got called to open for the Go-Go's.
Yes.
Right? No, it wasn't the Go-Go's. It was the singer? What's her name?
Tiffany.
What's that?
Not Tiffany.
No. The singer for the Go-Go's.
Oh,
she was
right.
Solo.
Right. What's her name? Yeah. I know.
Linda Carlisle. And all of her fans are like, 15, 16-year-old girls. And they hired Gilbert to open for them. And they thought, oh, he's funny. Let's have, no one put any thought into that. And show business hiring practices when it comes to stand-ups is so embarrassingly uninformed that.
Right.
And Gilbert went on and did one show and did like dirty jokes and stuff. They called Gilbert in and they said, Gilbert, yeah, I don't think this is working out. It's like, well, you're not the right guy
Comic
for this gig.
That
Yeah.
happened to me with Winona Judd. They hired me to open for Winona at the El Cerrito Center in Orange County, California, which is all just right wing. I'm so wrong.
That's a big venue too, right?
Huh?
That's a
So
big
I
venue.
was doing 2 shows, and before the first show, I asked the promoter if there's any language restrictions. He's like, "No, do what you want." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" Because I got some stuff that might be a little dicey. And he's like, "No, don't worry about it." And then a deaf interpreter came backstage and told me that she was wondering if I can run my 30-minute set for her before the show, so she can kind of prepare the sign language if there's anything. So I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "No, don't do it." I'm like, "No, I'm going to do it. And why don't you stay in the room and watch? That way, if there's anything you don't want me to do, I won't do it." He's like, "No, I'm going to my office." I'm like, "All right." So I'm doing it for her, and she's fucking sucking a dick and jerking people off, and she's laughing. I'm like, "All right, cool." So hold on, I'm getting a file is being sent to my computer right now.
Huh. Is it from the Postal Service?
Yeah.
Winona Judd.
So I end up, I go on, and I had a great set. And as soon as I walked off, nobody would come near me backstage. I'm like, so I go to the sound guy. I'm like, did I not do enough time? He's like, "Oh, you did more than enough time." As he said that, I can hear the promoter, was like a 300-pound guy, running towards me. I'm screaming, "What the fuck is the matter with you? You're up there doing blowjob jokes?" I'm like, "I fucking told you." Winona went on stage, apologized to the audience, and then did a 30-second moment of silence to save my soul.
Oh,
Are you serious?
God, that's fantastic.
And then my agent, I only got paid for that one show, and then I got kicked off of the.
Wow.
And yet, oddly enough, Winona invited Gregg up to her hotel room and gave him a blowjob.
Hypocrisy.
Now, Nick, in the intro, I said that you did Letterman 11 times. Is that correct?
Yes.
It was
that's
correct.
right.
What's the longest conversation you had with Dave Letterman when you did the show?
They were all the same amount of time. It was about 7 seconds, and I'm not kidding. Maybe 11 seconds.
Wow.
You said, "Hey," I said, "Oh, thank you so much for letting me do the show." And he's like, "Oh, it's my pleasure. Have a good night."
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty accurate.
He was one of the guys who flew out to Dave Chappelle's place.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. So I saw a shot of it on online, and Dave's just having a bunch of different comics do stand up. I guess a private plane picks people up, and they take a COVID test, and they're performing out there.
Wow.
And it was like Kevin Hart, and I guess Jon Stewart, and Sarah Silverman, and Louis C.K. And Letterman did one, which is pretty cool. I think it might be part of like a Netflix thing, which makes sense that Letterman would participate.
Probably, yeah.
But
That's
cool.
awesome.
That's pretty
Did
cool.
he do time?
I heard he did time. That's what I
That's
heard.
awesome.
That's pretty neat. I did warm up on that show for a week after the warm up guy who you all know got canned. They had 4 or 5 different people do it for a week at a time, and I actually thought I was going to get the job because it went very well. But I was actually kind of dreading it because, as you know, it's ice cold in the theater. It's freezing.
But
And
it's
I
a
really
short
thought-
amount of time, right?
Well, no, when you're there you end up in the theater for about 2 hours. You don't do much time before the show. You're doing about 8 minutes maybe on stage, and you bring out the band, you bring up Dave, you do a few bits. But it's money wise, it's great, and it's a cool gig to be in the Ed Sullivan Theater. But it was so painfully cold. I'm not kidding. My hands were completely chafed and chapped, and it was really unpleasant. And I knew I was doing a good job because they all said to me, "Don't talk to Dave, don't bother with Dave, don't look at Dave." And I didn't. And then he came over to me on the third day. He came over to me during a commercial break and chatted briefly. And I got scared because I was told don't talk to him. So I didn't know if it was like a test. But they ended up giving it to Alan Coulter, who was the announcer on the show, which made perfect sense to me. It was like the final year and a half or so. So I really, truthfully wasn't upset because I really didn't think I could handle the temperature. It was it was ice cold, So it's interesting. So Nick, you've done a lot of shows since we've been in lockdown, or what?
I just started doing them about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. I've probably done 6 shows since then, and did one down in Pennsylvania near Philly that was an outdoor kind of park that went really well. I mean, just in the sense that they were all quiet and they listened, and there was no disruption. It was the one where Jay Okerson got pulled off the stage.
Oh, wow.
It was that venue. like a week later, and but they were really nice, and I did a rooftop at some of the other comedy clubs, and I did Central Park.
What's the largest crowd you've performed for so far?
Probably 70 people, 75 people.
That Jay Okerson thing, I saw the video. I mean, they literally a guy was upset that Jay was like making fun of his wife or girlfriend, but she was being apparently very disruptive the whole show.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, and he literally went up and grabbed Jay's leg and pulled him off the stage. And the stage was what, about 5 feet off the ground?
Oh yeah. It's
Somebody put Jay off the stage.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Luis Gomez then ran over to help Jay out.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Tough guy. That's crazy, man. That is really
unbelievable.
Something. So, Nick, are you nervous at all performing on stage? You know, using a mic that another comic uses, or are they trading mics, or?
I probably should be more. I feel like I'm very careful. Like most of the comedy clubs are switching mics and disinfecting them in between comics, and this place was doing that. The people were really far away for this Pennsylvania gig, but the other ones are maybe a little bit more risky. But I don't know. Maybe I should be more careful. I don't know.
I mean, it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's nice to have a couple gigs under my belt just to keep my chops up a little bit.
Yeah,
for sure. I can't remember my act. I did the park show. I did a couple of the park shows, and I had a VO job. Like, so I blew out my voice. Like I blew out my voice like yelling because I wanted to like kill. You know, you never lose that feeling that I don't care if it's like 9 people sitting around a fucking oak tree. I'm gonna fucking rock this shit out of this. I'll fucking show them. You know, I fucking no microphone, no amplified sound, and I'm screaming, and then I'm like, you know what? I think I'm doing some serious vocal damage here. I had a job I took like a week off. I said I'm not gonna do any more of these yelling shows until I learn self-control.
How were the park shows that you did do though?
I mean, they're fine for what they are. You know what I mean? It's just I love amplified sound. That's my biggest. You know, I just can't stand the whole. You know what I mean? I just can't take the whole like I'm yelling like some mental patient I feel like a homeless drifter. I'm not even a performer at that
right.
Point, you know. So, and there's a homeless guy next to me who's just has equal amplification because I'm.
That was David Tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, somebody asked a question. They said, "What are your thoughts on a few cars driving off Bill Burr's return to comedy via a parking lot show?" Did you guys hear about that? I'm not familiar with this story.
I didn't hear about his show.
Well, I mean, someone drove away. Is that that's the equivalent of a walkout at a comedy show?
Yeah, I'm not sure. A week late, if you can clarify that. And what was the other question? Yeah, well, we covered all the warm-up stuff, Eugene Gerlin, I think. And thank you for the salt and the beard. My hair is black and my beard has been white since I was about 23, oddly enough. But there you go. I'm glad you noticed. It's good to be noticed for something.
The hard-hitting questions from the crowd.
Yeah, challenging stuff.
Exactly.
Greg, have you been seeing people? Are you dating anybody right now?
No. I mean, since it's funny though. Several girls who I've tried to in the past now call me they were all calling me during lockdown. I think I'm much less threatening. I'm locked in my fucking house. So no, it's been kind of, you know, I've been in a holding pattern with my entire life since March. You know, I haven't had a goal since fucking March. It's crazy, you know.
Wow.
I'm still very paranoid. You know, I have my little I do a lot of walking. I try to stay away from fucking people. I'm not spending a lot of time in Manhattan. I'm out in Queens. I'm cooking all my own meals. I haven't eaten in a restaurant since this.
At all?
Huh?
At all? You haven't eaten in a restaurant at all?
At all? Not since March. Yeah, I've been cooking my own meals every night.
You won't even get delivery?
I've done takeout a couple of times. Like when it was really bad in New York, I did takeout, but I would just I'd take it home and put it in the oven and heat it on 400 for like a half an hour. I don't know. I'm not trusting of takeout. I'm just, you know, I'm not trusting of the restaurants. I'm a little bit of I've become somewhat of of an agoraphobic hypochondriac. Since this is,
Yeah.
and I was already a hypochondriac before this ever even started.
Yeah. That I knew about that about you. Yeah.
Like the whole
A
hand.
bit of one as well. Yeah.
That was a nightmare for me because I live and die with hand sanitizer. And, so that, and now most of them are toxic. It's like I think the numbers now 115 different brands of hand sanitizer are toxic. So it's fucked up. I've been spraying my little spray bottle. I use regular fucking isopropyl alcohol to spray my hands.
Oh wow.
Hey,
this is the cool show business life we dreamed of when we were, you know what I mean? Like when I'll be a comic. I'm gonna, I want to get into show business and meet girls and everything else. Who knew you could, I'll have a career in stand up and work from home. Like
spray my hands every day.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, it says yes. Somebody apparently some people drove away during Bill Burr's show, and Bill Burr was just in Ohio doing Chappelle's thing. Whatever. I don't think Bill was that upset about some cars driving.
I'm sure he got over it.
I'm sure he got over it very fast.
They drove away. They drive away, right? Yeah. Comedy club. Like
it's about what's that?
I'll show you.
Honk honk.
Yeah.
Brian is lucky when it comes to eat. Brian lives with a fantastic woman who loves to cook.
Yes.
And Brian eats very well every night during this pandemic.
He's in there right now making beef stew and chicken pot pie soup.
Wow.
Right now. Yeah.
That's crazy. Good for you, man.
Yeah. Trader Joe's is right up the block, and it's just the greatest freaking friend to anybody in a fucking lockdown.
I've been getting I've been since July 10th. I've been living in a hotel in Aruba, and I have to tell you, I get room service. I go out and go to a place and eat fresh fish, and that's it. I keep to myself most of the time. I'm too paranoid to meet people because whatever. But food wise, it's fine. It's all fish and acai bowls, and that's it.
Yeah. We know. We all know, Ray. We've been there. We've eaten it. Nick, you've done the Aruba gig, haven't you?
No, I got
invited. Nick has been invited.
Ray, you've invited me, and I couldn't do it, and it's totally cool. Yeah.
Just want to make sure everyone knows Nick Griffin has been invited.
Right. This is yeah, exactly.
Nick, have you been swiping on Tinder at all during these days?
No, not at all. I have a girlfriend.
Oh, good for you. How long you guys been together?
2 years.
Oh, Jesus. Well, that's great.
2+.
It's good to have company during a lockdown or whatever, quarantine or pandemic. It's good. You guys think that there's going to be any shenanigans with the post office? You think that's going to come to fruition?
Yes. Yeah. Well, he's going to cheat on many levels. That's what I think.
Who knew that was going to be? That was one I didn't see coming. Of all the who knew that he who controls the post office controls the levers of power. You know what I mean? Like if seriously, if he brings the fucking democracy down by fucking the post office, I mean, you know what I mean? Kudos. Who knows? Right. Like no one cares about the post office ever, and I never saw that one coming. It's like we're like, oh, he's gonna do something. What's it gonna be? What game is he's gonna play? Oh, he's gonna suppress the vote. How's he gonna do it? By fucking with the guy who does our Amazon packages. It's like who the fuck saw? I never would have in a million years thought of that. Like that's just Machiavellian.
It's crazy, right?
Evil fucking shit. I can't even. There's my take on it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. But if the election were tomorrow, who do you guys think would win? Nick.
In a fair election, he would lose, but I don't believe it's going to be a fair election.
I think Trump's going to win.
I think he's going to win. He's going to cheat, and he's going to win. That's what I think.
I don't know. I have absolutely no idea what is going to happen. I think he could lose big, or he could pull out a squeaker. I think that it's like it's almost like I think that he's such a nut job, and who knows. And I'm just hoping they hold Joe Biden together with Elmer's glue and chicken wire until the end, like you know what I mean, just enough to get us. That you want to sit Joe down and just go hold it. Just don't. Just hold it together, man. And I don't know how well he's doing. Gave a great speech, and he seems to be better than. But sometimes he just goes off the rails, and you're going. Not that I care, because I think it's laughable when people, get worried about Joe Biden's, inability to articulate a vision for America. Like that's laughable from anybody like who's been following Trump for the last incoherent 4 years. So I'm just hoping that Joe Biden is like, okay, can Joe Biden make it over the goal line one last time before he before he loses it completely? I think he's he looked like good at the convention and gave a really strong speech, and so we'll see. I don't know, man. I don't know. Fucking everything's nuts nowadays. I can't predict anything.
What do you think, Ray?
I think it's amazing that there's some people that actually need to watch either convention so they can make a decision as to who to vote for. Like whether you're voting for Trump or Biden, you think know by now.
Yeah.
Not hearing any speeches,
Yeah, it's like, well, I still don't have a good read on this Trump guy. You know what I mean? Like I'm not. I think he's probably gonna. I mean, does anyone really think that he's gonna just? Does anyone think like, yeah, if we give Trump another 4 years, everything's going to be great. He's going to make America great. Like, is anybody going, yeah, he just needs a little more time in that job, and he's going to really fucking turn this country around. Like really, that's not he's a fucking chaos agent. He's a nihilistic fucking demolition expert who's just basically a middle finger to the country that angry people want him to be that, and the divisiveness and the incompetence, that's not a bug, that's a feature. It's like that's
Did you guys hear the story about the person who was supposed to he took money to help build the wall, and he just ran off with the money? Did you hear about that?
Was that the Steve Bannon thing?
Bannon, yeah.
Bannon and Brian Colford, just Vietnam
right.
Afghani veteran guy, raise money. And I know people that sent money to that. I know some right-wing guys that were like, yeah, we're sending money, he's gonna build a wall, and they bought yachts with the money, right? that's like they bought yachts with the money. And I just and then they interviewed the people that sent money, and what do you think they said? Just fill in the blanks. You don't even need to play Mad Libs with this one. Like what do you think there when they said they took money and they did this? You know what they said? They were like, good. I don't care. I'd do it again. I'd send money again as long as like you're like, oh God, it never ends. Like there's never. It's just shoot me now.
What did you guys did you see Seinfeld's response in the his op-ed he wrote in the New York Times in response to James? So James Altucher wrote a piece on Facebook saying why New York City is dead while New York City's finished. So Jerry Seinfeld wrote an article in the New York Times, kind of shitting on James and saying why he was wrong. Both were very interesting reads. But did you guys, Greg? Did you read either of those? Or both?
I'm familiar with it, but I haven't read it. First of all, I don't want to read any articles saying New York's dead, because New York is my fucking life's blood.
It's very depressing to read that.
So yeah, I pretty much stopped watching the news.
Really?
A few weeks ago. Before the pandemic, I had stopped watching for almost a year because I just can't take what's going on in this fucking country. It's not the news that's bothering me. It's the Trump administration and all the degenerates who follow him. And I just couldn't. I was getting angry every fucking day. So then when the pandemic hit, the only time I was watching the news is when I was doing the Comedy Cellar this week at the Comedy Cellar, just so I can write material.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And I was doing that.
Greg, let me ask you something. You're a pretty outspoken Trump, very extremely vitriolic anti-Trump guy. So do you get how much blowback do you get online for that shit? Like, you know what I mean? Like not that you care. I'm just asking you,
I think in the beginning I was getting some blowback, but after a while, people just fucking stopped because I stopped
From the other side, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I don't really like, I don't like getting into it with people online, and I generally don't do it anymore. I'll post something and then I'll just walk away. I don't want to get into it. And I also I blocked a lot of Trump supporters early on too. Because it's just it makes me sick. I really believe that Donald Trump is making people physically ill. And I'm not just talking about the pandemic, because he's absolutely killing people. I mean, he clearly killed Herman Cain. But I think even before the pandemic, just the sound of his voice, I think, gives people cancer. I really believe it. I'm not even joking. I think because I believe in the whole mind-body connection, and he's a very sick man, and and his sickness has really kind of spread all over this fucking country. It really is like a cancer, and there's nothing I can do except for vote. So after a while, I just stopped paying attention. I don't think people should stop paying attention, but I know I needed to stop paying attention because it's such a fucking disaster, and it's such a cheap con. I mean, that's what really bothers me about all this. Like if this really is the apocalypse, I feel like I got ripped off. You know what I mean? It's just like it's a cheap way for this country to end. You know what I mean? I would take any other. I would take a whole Planet of the Apes scenario over this fucking Trump scenario. It's such a shitty, cheap embarrassment. He's such a
which Apes movie are you pointing to? Which is it? Conquest? Is it
Rise?
Beneath? Are you talking Beneath?
James Franco, Mark Wahlberg, Charlton Heston.
I'm talking the one with
are you the Charlton Heston, James Franciscus?
That's the one. I prefer that one. All of them to fucking Trump. It's
and Nick,
I'm not like a card-carrying fucking Democrat either. This is just. I just feel like I'm a human being. I think any reasonably intelligent human being would recognize what a demented piece of shit he is. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a therapist to see that something's seriously wrong with this guy. I think dogs can sense it. I really believe that a dog can sense his fucking dementia. And that's why I think he doesn't even have a dog. I don't think it's because Trump doesn't like dogs. I think dogs don't like Trump.
Wait a second. You're saying your theory is that there's no dog in the White House right now because you think that dog will pick up on Trump's mental.
I think as soon as Donald Trump walks into the room, that dog would give him that tilted-headed look and just jump out of a fucking window.
So you're saying the presence of Donald Trump is similar to a dog whistle?
Yeah. Why wouldn't Trump like dogs? Dogs are like they're like nature's ass kisses. Trump would love to have something kissing his ass all fucking day. You know what I mean? But they won't. Dogs won't fucking kiss his ass. No, there's something wrong with him. He's demented, and the people that support him are demented.
Now, shifting gears, let me ask you this. Would you have a one-night stand, assuming you were single, with Nick and Brian, you have to pretend, would you have a one-night stand with a very attractive woman that you just met? You know, you're in a bar, you did a show in a park, you're hanging out. Would you do it during COVID times?
No. I'm out.
Gregory?
My heart says no, but my dick probably would take the risk.
Overrule it.
Flesh is weak, Ray.
Multiple.
Flesh is weak, Ray. Bring the girl, and then we'll see.
Do you wear a condom every time you have sex? Because
me?
Rarely.
You rarely use a condom?
It's sometimes, but not. If not all the time.
You have lost your hypochondria card, my friend, because if you're not.
When it comes to condoms, my hypochondria is on hold. It's always been that way. But I'd be a little more apprehensive maybe during the pandemic. But I still wear a mask.
Yeah. While you're having sex, you wear a mask.
Yeah.
Put a hole in the mask. Yeah. I would like to applaud the diversity of the booking of tonight's episode of the show.
Yeah, right.
Nick, have you ever had any stalkers? Any stalkers from the comedy?
Never had anything like that. Never. I don't know if I seem so miserable on stage that people just keep their space, but I've never had a stalker or anything like that.
Well, how similar would you say your onstage persona is to how you are in everyday life?
Who's to say? I don't know, 50%. I'm actually 50% more depressed off stage than I am on stage. Actually, I have to buff it up a little to get on stage.
What and Brian, you had any stalker scenes?
I've had some weird. I had some in my misspent sordid past. I've had some very odd. A couple of. I had like a girl who used to come and sit in the front row of the club by herself.
Yeah.
That's kind of creepy. And I had a Wednesday night show in Jersey, and this one girl just would come in and she would just stare adoringly at me, and then in this kind of creepy way. And then she sent me like she started sending me gifts and sent me like balloons one night, like a guy with a balloon. She sent me a balloonagram at the club, which was like really inappropriate, like, and it was brought in while I was performing on stage, like some, and I remember I finished my
Make a
set.
wish.
I ran off stage and said, "Happy birthday, Brian," all these balloons. And I took my penknife and I, stabbed the balloon. Seriously, just, I wanted to get it away so that I didn't get asked about it, or who's that? Or why did they do that? Or like this. Yeah. And I think and then she sent me a note saying like, I thought, did you get the balloons? And I was like, yeah, and I'm working and that's really inappropriate. We barely know each other, and I just didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't. But she was like kind of creepy. She would send me notes.
You have to measure the intent. She is a loving woman who sent you some balloons from her kid's party.
I'm sending her your email address, Ray, so you can feel free to.
I've had a few frightening things. The one was a woman who I met at a show, and we talked after the show. And I guess I gave her my number, and she proceeded to call me 50, 60 times. I didn't answer the phone, but I saw I'd caller IDs on my. This is when I had a landline. This is probably 20 years ago, and she was calling me from a fax machine because I would call back the number and it was a fax machine, and I managed to figure out it was the company that the fax machine was located, and of course it was her office.
Wow.
And, I finally had to call her and say, "You have to stop calling me." And she said, "I haven't called you." She had a friend. She was from France. I have not. I did not call you. I said, "Well, you've a fax machine from your office has been calling me, so you got to tell it to knock it off." So it was creepy. And what about you, Greg? Greg, you've dated women from all over the globe. I think there's got to be.
Dated, yeah, I've dated quite a few. I get laid more than your average accountant. I've been doing this almost 30 years now. So I've been to a lot of fucking places.
There was a woman years ago when this is before Ray Romano was famous, and the reason I remember this is because this woman showed up at the comic strip. I was not there. And I guess I was barely working there. And I guess she called up and asked if Ray was performing, and it was Romano. So she went to the show. So this is before he had his sitcom. And then she called me angry that she said, I called the club and they said, I asked if you were performing and I went, you weren't there. I said, I never said I was performing, and I don't know who you asked. I called and said, is Ray performing? I'm like, there are other comics named Ray, some of whom are far more successful than I.
Right.
So it was very peculiar. Very peculiar. Oh, somebody just said I sounded like I just did Dan Natterman there. All right. Well, I tell you, I've never had a stalker, but I have had an uncomfortable glare in a Walmart parking lot. Would you guys, if there's a vaccine, would you take it right away? I would not, but I'm curious if you guys are more brave than I.
I probably would not.
I would maybe wait a month.
A month?
I don't know. I mean, look. I want to get back to work. It's getting to the point now where working is just as important as not getting coronavirus. You know what I mean? I mean, it's been 6 months. I want to be able to get back on stage. So I would be, I don't think I'd wait probably longer. And first of all, look, if it's the Russian vaccine, no. But if it's a vaccine that's gone through all the testing, And preferably comes out when Biden is in office, because I don't trust anything coming out of the fucking Trump administration. That's for sure. I would take it. I want to get back to work.
Well, that's what's funny. That's going to be an interesting thing. I don't know when that's going to happen, but that's going to be an interesting thing, especially from the Trump perspective and the Trump supporters who are very much, we want to get back to work. And we want to, we got to open up the country. The right wingers are, we got to open up the damn country. This is bullshit. We freedom. And there's, all right, you got to take this vaccine. What the fuck is there? No fucking way. Like that's going to bang right into that freedom perspective,
Right.
And it's like, all right, you want to go back to work? Here you go. Here's a fucking bag. Fuck you. Here's a fucking eat lead, motherfucker. So I'm not sure how that's going to happen. And I love the way Trump has just navigated somehow above the fray of the country's in lockdown, but Trump, and people are protesting a oppressive government, but Trump's, but he's not in any way, shape, or form involved, like he has no power whatsoever or whatever. Like there's this weird cognitive dissonance about, it's like the QAnon people that think that, Trump is not a pedophile, but Tom Hanks is, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know if you guys, know this, Nick and Greg, but Brian McFadden, shockingly enough, he was the voice of the Serta sheep for about 15 years.
I knew that.
Yeah. Leave it to Ray to drag us right back to banality. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about gravitas. Ray, do you want the voice? Is that what you?
It's up to you. Listen, I do know that Angela and Eugene and A Week Late and Anne Marie would love to hear this voice.
Well, the funny part is here's a funny story about that. We did a commercial with one of OJ's lawyers. What was the famous lawyer? I can't remember his.
Kardashian?
No, the real high-powered guy that would.
Cochran?
No, it wasn't Johnny Cochran. It was
F. Lee Bailey.
F. Lee Bailey. F. Lee Bailey. So we did a commercial with the sheep come in to hire F. Lee Bailey because certain mattresses are so comfortable, people aren't counting sheep anymore. So this was after the OJ trial, and so the commercial, I think I still have a copy of this. The sheep are sitting there in F. Lee Bailey's office, and it's me going, you see, Mr. Bailey, certain mattresses are so comfortable, people don't even need to count us anymore. So is it possible for us to sue Serta? And F. Lee Bailey goes, have you suffered any emotional distress? And I'm like, yeah, I've suffered lots of emotional distress. Right? And he goes, well, I think you have a case. The commercial aired once. And then people wrote in saying, how dare a mattress commercial support one of the guys who got OJ off? You know what I mean? And they yank the spot because of that. Like it's hilarious. You never know what weird shit is going to come back to fucking get you, You
know what would have been a terrific commercial if you had the Serta mattress sheep having a threesome. With a threesome with the Honey Nut Cheerio Bee and the yellow M&M.
Thank you, Ray. Ray, trying to weave a threesome together in any way possible, right? That's great. That's great. I also did so that was my favorite Serta mattress commercial.
It's pretty amazing. Well, one night Brian and I were hanging out. We were and he mentioned that his dad did tons of voices. He did Frankenberry, the cereal.
Yeah, of course. It's the second generation.
Yeah. He's a
Snarf on the Thundercats.
That's
cool. Every time I try to make jokes about my dad in my act, the audience doesn't believe me because that's like the most truthful shit you try to write. I go, I'm the son of Snarf on the and they're going, all right, where's the joke? It's like, what's the bit? And I'm like, I'm not making this shit up. Okay. It's like,
what's the album that your dad was on again? The comedy album?
He was on a bunch of old classic comedy albums. Like
JFK one.
The First Family with the JFK one with Will Jordan and
wow.
It's a famous old album. It was like the #1 selling comedy record of all time.
I know that album.
Who did the voice of JFK? Well, who's the comic?
Oh, that was what's his name? Now I'm blanking out, but
is that the guy from Fernwood Tonight?
No. John Biner, you thinking of?
No, I was thinking of
He was a super famous guy. His whole career was doing the impression, and then after Kennedy was
Yeah,
shot.
well, after Kennedy, whatchamacallit, the famous Lenny Bruce joke. Boy, do I feel bad for Von Meter. It was Von Meter,
Von Meter.
and Von Von Meter was the best Kennedy impersonator in the country. It was like he was a huge celebrity. He's on the Sullivan Show,
Right.
and Meter did the best Kennedy, and so they put out an album. It was a huge record. It was like he was a big star. And my father did Castro, I think, on the album, and a bunch of and LBJ, I think. I can't remember who he did a bunch of voices on the album. But then, but then when Kennedy got shot, Kennedy ended up getting shot, and the one thing that Von Meter was good at was that was his thing, that he was really known for that. And so, and Lenny Bruce is a famous story. Lenny Bruce went on in New York City to perform, and they didn't know what he was going to say after Kennedy got shot. He was a big Kennedy supporter, and Bruce goes on, and the first line out of his mouth is, "Boy, do I feel boy is Von Meter fucked." Right? That was his opening joke, right? And it turned out to be true. Von Meter's career completely never recovered, and he completely disappeared off the map, became an alcoholic, and all this stuff. Yeah, it was really sad story. Somehow my father managed to avoid any of this, any of the blowback from association with that album.
Right.
Crazy that his entire career hinged on an impression that anybody from Boston could do.
Right. Yeah, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that
I
Gregg
say to
Rogell,
you, now I say unto you that you are there. I will fight, and we will heal.
Brian. If you could time travel, you could go back in time and you could do an album with your father. You could play JFK.
Yes, I could. I could do the Honey Nut Cheerio Bee on the album and have a threesome with Von Meter if you really want to close the circle of this.
And Kennedy was a big puss hound.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And Kennedy loved yellow M&Ms.
Yes.
Angela Hutzler has asked, are there any perks to COVID? Yes, Angela. I've always dreamed of sticking sharp sticks up my nose, and now I have an excuse. Which is, I've had 4 COVID tests, and believe I do it for fun. It's actually not that bad. I don't find the COVID. I mean, it's not pleasant, but it's not a big deal. I don't think. Are any perks to COVID, Nick, at all?
I don't know. It keeps you in bed for a little longer.
True.
I love napping.
Napping is good.
There's a lot less fear of missing out since nothing is going on. You know what I mean? That's one of the only good things is well, everything's been put on hold. So at least nothing is going on that I'm not involved in,
Right.
It's like one of the oddest things. That's why very depressed, sometimes shut-in people are happy as a clam right now. It's like weird. There's certain people this is the best thing that's ever happened to them because now everyone knows how they feel, all day,
My sister wrote an article. I'm going to post it in the comments. If she was about a month or two ago, and it was in the New York Times, and it was about this fear of missing out and how now everyone, she feels like the whole world now kind of feels like her, and it's similar to what you were just talking about, and it's a very good article. It was a great read. Greg, do you find any perks for you for COVID? I mean, are you eating better? Are you working out? Anything?
Adam Glynn. Adam, he's a young comic. He worked at TMZ for a long time. He started working for Tony Robbins, and I'm big on meditation. I've been meditating for 10 years, which helps me tremendously. And he gifted me at the beginning of the pandemic with some Tony Robbins digital CDs. So I decided, because I was just so angry, every morning I'd get up angry, that I would start my day with motivational speaking. So I every day I wake up and I do the Tony Robbins hour of power workout, and I do these motivational exercise, and I do my push-ups and chin-ups, and he got just listening to this stuff. He got me motivated to write more. So now I write anywhere from like 2 to 5 hours a day. I'll sit down and I'll actually discipline myself and I'll write. So in that sense, I'm churning out a lot of material, even though most of it, I'm testing it on Zoom, and you really can't test the material. So, but I have over an hour of new stuff, and I don't know if it's any good. In that sense, yeah, because I've had to develop new strategies to cope with the day, and the for me, the best way to feel good at the end of the day is to at least come up with something that I think's going to work on stage, you know? For me, it's gotten me to discipline myself.
Well, Greg, you came on as a guest on my Friday night show that I do, the Aruba comedy show, and you did lots of brand new stuff, and it was great. People love it. Was really great. I mean, brand new bits.
Yeah, let's do more, man. I got a lot of material. Every Tuesday I'm doing Adam Hunter's Dime Bar comedy show. It's a Zoom show. I do that every Tuesday. That just started. It started last week. And I'm going to do the Cellar's show, and I'm trying to get on as many Zoom shows as possible, just to run the material. You know, you can't really gauge it, but just having to prepare a set and do it keeps you sharp. You know, so when we do get back to work, all of this material will at least have been, tested.
Nick, have you done a lot of online shows?
No, I've only done a handful, but I've wanted to do more. Just like Greg was saying, if I know people say, oh, they're not very good, or sometimes they're just decent, but if I just want to recite my act, because I've forgotten I've forgotten the order of my jokes, and so that's helped in many ways. You know, I've only done a couple.
It's hard to go back and do material that I did before the pandemic, because it's just, it's like a different world now. And all of that stuff just it doesn't mean anything. Like I find to do stuff about what's going on seems to get better response, because
yes, and yes, for sure. But Greg, when you do bits about, for example, about your dog or that's still very relatable stuff, and that still resonates.
But it's sort of like, there's an elephant in the room. We're in the middle of a fucking pandemic. You know what I mean? So you're going to go up there and be like, I'm going to talk about my dog. Like, you can, but it doesn't have the same impact. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, that's one person. So, let's talk about that.
Well, sorry, Ray.
Well, I was going to say, this guy Crumbum posted a comment. He said, according to Seinfeld, Zoom has no energy. Thoughts? And I wholeheartedly disagree. These weekly shows, maybe not to toot my own horn, maybe I'm very good at it, but the format I've come up with.
Your shows are very well produced, and they're good. They're entertaining. Some of the other Zoom shows, there's not a lot of audience. It's mostly comics trying out material on other comics. You can't really gauge anything. You'll get a couple of supportive laughs here and there, but sometimes I'll walk away from it feeling a little depressed. But the fact of the matter is, and Nick summed it up, but as long as you're reciting it, you're keeping it fresh in your mind, and it's something. It's just something to keep you busy, basically.
Yes. This Friday, and I'm mentioning this as just a plug to the people watching this thing. Friday, if you go to arubacomedy.com, you have to buy a ticket in advance, and it's a charity thing. But Richard Kind will be on the show. Richard Kind, you've seen on Curb Your Enthusiasm and Spin City and Mad About You. And also Christian Finnegan will be on for a second time, and Veronica Mosey and Eric Rivera for the first time. Brian has been on that show several times, about 10, maybe 8, 10 times. And Nick, if you ever want to do it, I'd love to have you. It's a paid gig, and it's good. We have other people on Zoom, so we can interact with the audience much easier if you choose to.
I like the fact that on your shows, right, you got these same. Speaking of online stalkers, there are certain people that show up every show. We know there's a familiar face, somebody that's even if you've done the material or whatever. I love doing like. I'm not a crowd work comic, but on Zoom for some weird reason, I enjoy like picking out shit that's going on. It's kind of fun.
It's great for crowd work. I don't really do a lot of crowd work, but it is definitely a crowd work format. Absolutely.
As long as you drop in material, because I have found, and this is all from trial and error, people who go to these shows definitely want to hear material. They want to hear bits. Like the feedback I've gotten. They love you, Greg. They love Mark Norman, did a lot of jokes. They love Brian when you do material. That's the feedback I've gotten. And the real testament to the success of those shows is that the same people are coming. They're buying a ticket every week, which is great. I mean, that's a sign that they really want to be there. They're paying to be there every week. So that's nice,
Great lineup.
Nick, you definitely should do it if you want.
I'd love to, yeah.
Romano was on the show.
Ray Romano was on, and he I thought he was going to do like 10 minutes. He
Oh,
was
he's
on
on
for,
for 2 hours.
yeah, it was an hour, a little over an hour. Yeah.
He did an HBO special on your thing. Yeah.
It was pretty great. It was pretty great. I felt bad for other comics who were on the show just because they didn't get much time, but I'll have them all back. Brian was one of those people, but he was great, and it was really, it was just kind of cool, to hear stories. I mean, look, you guys all probably know him better than I. He's always been very nice to me, but it's just I really enjoy hearing stories from super successful people in any walk of life of what they did prior to their enormous success. I just think it's very interesting.
Yeah, Ray has great ones because like he delivered mattresses. You know what I mean? Like he was like a blue collar, and he has like great stories of when he started, and he has a great story about working at like a wedding where some guy saw him in a club and hired him. Could you do my wedding? You're freaking funny. I'll hire you. Ray told me the story. I don't know if he's told it. It's not a big deal to him, but like, cause he's got a million of these, but he said some guy hired him to do his wedding, and that fucking comedy's fragile. You can't just do it anywhere. They're going up in somebody's wedding or some like fucking weird place and Ray just ate it completely. And then just completely, the guy thought he was funny. And he's like, this guy, I thought he was funny, right? Like this guy, this is Ray Romano you're talking about, and Ray came up to him and goes, can I get my money? Oh, I got to pay you for that? Like, that's what the guy said. I got to give you money for that? It's like, oh my God. That's like,
That's great.
People think, oh, you're funny. Come to my fucking backyard barbecue and be funny. It's just so sad.
I got hired to play, it was a firehouse. It was for a bunch of firemen. And there was no microphone, and there was a pool table between me and the 15 guys in the fucking audience who were all pissed fucking drunk firemen. So they just started heckling immediately, weren't paying attention. And about maybe 6 or 7 minutes into my set, 2 guys got up and just started playing fucking pool.
That's fantastic.
That's great. Is there anything anybody has coming up that they would like to mention to people watching both live or when this is replayed on YouTube for eternity? Brian, what do you got?
We got a gig in Toronto in September. That's probably going to get canceled.
Nice.
I may hang myself in October, but other than that, I have nothing really on the books at the moment.
Which gig are you more excited about, Greg?
Which pays more?
Yeah. Nick, what about you? You're probably doing the most live shows.
No, you can just follow me at the Nick Griffin on Twitter. The Nick Griffin. The Nick Griffin on Twitter. I will type that in. The Nick.
Oh shit! I've been following a Nick Griffin.
right.
What about you, Brian?
B. Scott McFadden on Twitter. I'll probably be. I'm now legally required to have a podcast, so I think I'm going to have one soon called the Enlightened Comic Podcast, where I'll be rambling incoherently and probably dragging some of you motherfuckers on to kill 20 minutes of be happy to. Yeah, but I'll be launching that very soon, and a couple of other projects that I'm working on. We'll see what happens. I'm working with you, Ray, on a couple of things.
Yes, right? We are. Yes, we are. I have my hands. I'm trying to keep as busy as possible because I mean, it was. I tell you, the beginning of that lockdown, it was just brutal and confusing. And you guys know. I mean, I lost my sister in March, and it was just what a fucking shit show that was. To that and then the lockdown. Ugh. But that's okay. It's life. We move forward. We're all moving forward. Forward progress. If anyone would like these Friday night shows, arubacomedy.com, please visit comedycloud.co. We do shows now for different companies. We've done about 60 of those, and those are fun. comedycloud.co. And those of you the numbers in Aruba, yes, there is a spike in Aruba. However, no tourists are being affected. It's happening amongst local people because they're bringing it home and spreading it in their house. And there you go. You have to I feel safer here than I do in America. On the beach, you're fine. In restaurants, you're totally fine, and everyone wears a mask. And
enjoy your life there, Ray, while we hold down the fort here in New York.
Brian, you were here. You left. Brian and his girlfriend came to Aruba for 13 days, and they left like fools.
It was fantastic. It was awesome, right?
Well,
wanna
there you
go
go.
back.
You
She
know.
wants to go back. She wants to go back. She wants to go back right now. So,
Well,
maybe-
there you go. Well, I'll tell you what. Send her down, and you stay in New York.
yeah. Okay, we'll
I'll
get
show
right.
you how afraid I am of COVID.
Right. Yes.
Anyway, are we? I have to ask our producer. Is there anything else that needs to be said or done? I don't host the show on a regular basis.
No, that's it.
Are we good? So, Gregg Rogell, Nick Griffin, Brian Scott McFadden. I am Ray Ellen. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Greg,
Stay
see you
well.
well, Brian.
See you guys.
Nick.